What up? This is Rama Screen, and in the anticipation of Hell Hath No Fury, arriving in theaters November 5 and on digital November 9, I'm here talking with the director of this new film, Jesse Johnson. How are you, Jesse?
I'm good. Thank you, Rama. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking the time, and congratulations. I'm a big fan of your previous film, Triple Threat, by the way. Hell Hath No Fury obviously is a completely different genre. What was it about Catherine and Romaine's script that made you want to be a part of this project?
I had put a script call out through, various different sources for a film that had minimal cast and minimal locations. Nothing else, no other guidelines whatsoever. I probably got about 45 scripts back. I read Hell Hath No Fury probably around 10 or 15 into all these scripts, and it became very quickly became the guiding mark by which we judged all the other scripts. Is it better than Hell Hath No Fury? Is it, and finally it won out. It's like, no, it kept coming back to this script. So it was, I think, the biggest thing about it that appealed to me, it was a very original, very interesting. It had lots of spaghetti Western kind of throws. And I love the spaghetti Westerns of Sergio Leone, Fistful of Dollars, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and For a Few Dollars More. And it had a real European feel to it. I've had a deep love for French cinema as well. The French did something, have done something interesting. They're very obstinate. They don't like to leave France. But there's a long history of French filmmakers making gangster films in the style of, American films, making films in the style of American Westerns, but staying in France. And I've always loved that. The films of Jean-Pierre Melville. He made a film called The Samurai with Alain Delon that was, about a gangster in Paris who was very much influenced by Humphrey Bogart and all these kind of guys. And there was something about this film that painted a picture of World War II that was very much from a French perspective, which I found original and exciting and inspiring because, since Saving Private Ryan and Band of Brothers, which were epic and beautiful and wonderfully made, we've had a whole slew of films that are basically love letters to Spielberg's take on World War II, which is fantastic. But I knew, I'd like the Russian take on World War II, the Stalingrad pictures and Sevastopol and pictures like that. I found very entertaining. But it was interesting to see a take on World War II from the French perspective, but dealing with American and German characters as well as French characters, and that really triggered something in me. I thought, this is really good. This is, there's been a whole slew of these cheap World War II movies made, and they're just awful. I bless the filmmakers; they've done their best, but they've simply made a modern film, with characters wearing World War II outfits. What we did with this one, I said, if I'm going to do this, we're going to do our research, we're going to do it right. And we had guys, because of COVID, we bubbled at the location, which, there's no cell phone, no internet because of where we were. It's very remote. And so the characters lived in 1944 for the month or so that we're out there. And we shot in almost chronological order. So the scars and the bumps and the burns and the bruises were maintained throughout the film in the way that they should do. Which was very exciting for me. It's something that I really enjoyed, and everything in the film was researched. From going out on a picnic and having the food that they have on a picnic, which you don't actually see in the final movie, but it's in the bag. Is it? There would not be white bread. There would not be jelly between the bread. There would not be butter with it. There's no candy. Candy at the time in France was a sugared plum. That was all that they had. There were no. Because of rationing and cutbacks with sugar and fat and meat and flour and butter, these were things that were very valuable if you could get them, and most people would not have them. I remember my grandmother, who was in the army from 41 to 43 in England, telling me stories about how they didn't have silk. So there's no stockings. You would have she'd take a marker pen and go down the back of her leg with it, so it looked like they had silks on, silk stockings. So we researched everything from that through to the invective, the swear words, the F word, the use of MF, and I sent it one of my guys who was a technical advisor on this, he does the Call of Duty games and he's a lot of History Channel stuff. And he said, they wouldn't use the word mother effer at this time. And I said, well, funnily enough, we did the research on every single invective used in the movie, and the first use of that recorded is 1920, by jazz musicians. and so absolutely they would have used it, and it would have been a turn of phrase for the Americans. And doing that kind of research I find really exciting. I love it. The guns that you know, Tim Murphy's character Jerry carries an MP44 that was fielded to German troops in 1944. And so it made sense that his character may have found that on his trip up through Italy and taken that as a souvenir, you know, at that point. And that's why he's got that, you know. So trying to do the research and making sure that we were on was exciting. The 12th SS unit that they run into, the band of SS that come back to the cemetery, they would have been making their retreat through southern France to get back to Germany as quickly as possible. You know, the Allies had already landed at Normandy. So this made sense. So in a fantastical scenario, all of the elements are truthful and not anachronistic. And this was very, very important to me. If you're going to tell a fantasy story, make sure all of the elements around that aren't fantasy are absolutely as correct as they can be. And it was exciting to me.
So I watched that Wonder Woman short trailer that you did with Nina and Tim Murphy. Fantastic trailer, by the way. Kind of got me wondering what could have been. And so, what's your impression of Nina? And have you always wanted to make her your leading star, but just couldn't find the right project until Hell Hath No Fury? She seems to have all the right traits to potentially become a big action star.
She absolutely should, and not even just an action star, but a regular star in her own right, a film star. I worked with her. You know, I did. Our story goes back even further. There's one moment in my career where I think it was around 2008. I'd had 3 films fall apart on me, and you know, I went from having 6 figures in the bank to realizing, oh shit, I actually owe money at this point, and it was a terrifying notion. And Nina just happened to call that week and said, I want a writer to write my life story as a script. I only have such an amount of money, and so at a very low point in my life, she came in, like we'd met already as actor and had coffees as actor and director talking about projects. And so I actually wrote a script for her, and she saved my bacon early on. So I love Nina for many, many reasons, as well as her extreme talent and screen presence that she has. When I came to do the Wonder Woman short, at that time Wonder Woman didn't exist as an entity at all. I think there was a script floating around. And I felt I could do something really original with it. We shot it. Nina got into the top 5, you know, with regard to actually playing the part when DC decided to do it. DC had me in 3 times and talked to me, and they said, look, we love your take on it. We want to use elements of your take, you know, to inspire our movie, but you can't be involved. You're a male. We know now we want a female to direct this, which makes complete sense. I'm totally behind that, by the way. I thought the film was fantastic. But when Nina went to the callback, which I think was either the 2nd or 3rd callback, she said they had pictures of her, still frames from the short, from the trailer that we'd made on the wall at DC, and she said, by the way, that's me. And they said, no, she's got dark hair, you're blonde. He says, no, I dyed my hair for the trailer. That's my friend Jesse directed that, and I think that caused some concern there. But the shot, you know, with the slow motion rifle breaking that they do set in World War I is identical to the shot that we put in the teaser from World War II. But I find all that wonderful. I think that's, you know, I borrow from films all the time, so I have no problem with it at all. I'm very honored that they had me in, and I talked to them, and I went to Warner's and had that brief. It was a amazing, you know, it was 1 million hits in less than 24 hours. And at the time that was, you know, that was like crazy. And the phone was ringing off the hook. And I just directed a Stone Cold Steve Austin movie that no one was interested in. I'd done this thing that I paid for by selling a motorcycle, which became internet sensation. So it was a strange thing, you know, you suddenly realize the business is predicated, you know, on luck and opportunity and timing. But yes, I wanted to work with Nina. We put a huge casting out for Hell Hath No Fury. It's a very, very good role, and we had a lot of submissions, very exciting ones. But having their heads sheared and cut, not just shaved, but sheared, so there's bald patches and tufts of hair, turned off, you know, the great majority of them. You know, they said, well, can we put a bald wig on? I said, I can't put a bald wig on. It's not going to work. You're in, you know, we're going to be shooting in chronological order. This is a statement. This is a postcard of love and respect to those people that actually went through this in World War II. I'm not going to put a rubber bald wig on, you know. We had a very, very good actress from Russia, an award-winning actress who was signed to play the role. We couldn't get her out because of COVID. We were very close to the shoot date. We were going to lose Daniel Bernhardt because he was going to Matrix and obviously couldn't push that. And so we had to hire, and we were doing a script read through, and I begged Nina to come and do the read through, and very, very kindly she turned up and she did the read through with the rest of the cast, and we finished, and each member of the cast came to me individually, quietly, took me aside and said, "You have to hire her. She is incredible." They were in tears by the end. The end of the movie is very emotional, and in the read-through, it's extraordinarily emotional. It was the first time, you know, a lot of them had done it together, and people, you know, the guys were all crying. I mean, it's a powerful piece of writing. And Dominic Vandenberg, who's my dear friend, he was my best man at my wedding 25 years ago. He's an ex-French Foreign Legionnaire, a bare knuckle fighter. He's a real life, you know, hard man. And he took me aside and poked me in the chest and said, "You're a fucking idiot if you don't hire her." And he turned his back and walked away. And if you know Dominic, that's something that you take very seriously. You don't sort of brush him off. He's like Charles Bronson, you know. And so I went to the executive producers. And I said, we have to hire. We're 48 hours before filming, you know. And it was lucky we hired her, because obviously they never opened up Russia. Russia didn't open up for another 3 months or 4 months. So we would have not had a film. But she is brilliant, and she committed 100% to it. I'm so in awe of her performance. My job as a director is to stand back and allow the actors to do what they do best. I only get involved if they need guidance, or, you know, I'm provoking something or manipulating something. And I had so many moments on this set where I'm watching the monitor and caught up in the scene, that you don't, you know, so caught up in the scene, you forget to say cut, because you're trying to see what happens next. And it was one of those exciting movies that comes along very rarely, where things happen for the good of the movie, and they just keep compounding, and things that could go wrong don't go wrong, and things these little surprises come out of nowhere. And it was amazing. It was an amazing shoot, and a lot of that was because of Nina leading and convicting and sinking herself into this character, so immersing herself so completely that it brought the other characters into that as well. And even Dominic was there he cried in one scene. I've never seen him do that. You know, he was in the scene where he professes his love to her and she slaps him. None of that was scripted. It was all coming out of the dialogue and watching what's happening when people are really deep in their characters, which is so exciting. Long answer. Sorry about that.
No worries. You're good. My time is running out, but I gotta ask you this final question. I spoke to Daniel earlier today. I interviewed him in the morning. We cracked up at the fact that he didn't get to do roundhouse kicks in this film, since this is not a martial arts movie, and he's the martial arts maestro. You did Triple Threat. Any plans of coming back to the martial arts genre and perhaps have Daniel Bernhardt kick some ass for your next project?
I'd love that, Rama. I'd love that so much. We'll see what comes up. As a genre, I'm less attracted to martial arts than putting it in where it's somewhere and can be validated and is exciting to watch. I made six, without hyperbole, 6 martial arts movies in a row, and tried each time to tell a different story and validate the need for these martial arts scenes as originally as possible. It's very difficult because, you know, the worst thing in the world is 2 guys facing each other and laying their guns down and going, okay, let's do this like men, because it just doesn't exist in real life. There's no parallel in reality to that happening. It's a totally fantastical scenario. So each time you've got to use every ounce of your imagination to come up with a reason for 2 guys to go at it and use the martial arts, their particular martial arts. And it's tricky, but finding a script that has action and character and story, and then has martial arts fights in it. Now that's something else altogether, and I would love to do that with Daniel, because he's phenomenal. He's phenomenal in this movie. He was the only actor I hadn't worked with previously, because it's COVID, so I'm calling people that would be prepared to bubble with me for 2 weeks, 3 weeks in the middle of nowhere with no cell, no telephone service, and to immerse himself on this movie. And I hadn't met him before, so I was nervous. But as you'll, I'm sure, agree, when you meet him, he's the most disarmingly charming, wonderful, generous, zero ego human being you'll ever run into. And he speaks 3 languages, which this character had to: French, German, and English. But more importantly, I saw something of humanity in him. And I knew that von Bruckner, the character that he plays in Hell Hath No Fury, couldn't be a one-dimensional bad guy. He couldn't be the Nazi twirling his moustache, wearing the black hat, who's just a bad guy. He had to have a good guy inside of him that was validating his actions, you know, because most bad guys are people who validate what they're doing. You know, they don't act out of pure menace or vindictiveness. They act because they think they're doing the right thing for themselves, for their people, for their politics, for their whatever. And I wanted that to be reflected. And he has the intellect as an actor to achieve that. And I think he does. I really love his character in this movie. I think he's, you know, he's so seductive, you know. And I think if you know, it helps Marie's character as well, having someone like Daniel play that part, you know.
I very much enjoy this film. Big fan of war movies in general, but this one is very gritty, very hardcore. I would recommend it to everybody. So my fans at home, go check out Hell Hath No Fury, arriving in theaters November 5 and on digital November 9. Jesse, thank you for talking to me and congratulations, sir.
Thank you, Rama. Really appreciate your help.